At exactly 7 a.m. on a Tuesday, I stepped outside with a cup of black coffee, still wearing my flannel shirt and boots, expecting to feed the chickens and check the fences. What I didn't expect was to see a full line of 15 bulldozers blocking the entrance to my farm, their engines rumbling like war drums. And there, dead center, stood Marlene Given's aviator sunglasses, arms crossed, barking orders into a walkie-talkie like she was orchestrating a military operation. My goats bolted. The chickens screamed. And there, stuck into the dirt right beside my tractor, was a cheap sign, property seized by HOA District Authority. I blinked twice, hoping it was a prank or some bad dream. But nope, this was real. Marlene strutted halfway toward me with a thick folder and that unnerving grin she wore like a weapon. "You're in violation of HOA Territorial Expansion Policy 39B. She snapped, flipping open her folder to reveal a blurry map that looked like it was printed off a GeoCities page in 2003. I laughed. I genuinely thought it was a joke. "And who gave you the authority to be on my land?" I asked. She poked her finger into my chest. "You're not above the rules just because you own a few cows. This land belongs to the HOA now." I took a sip of coffee, gave her one last look, and walked back inside. Marlene screamed, "That's right. Walk away. You're finished here." Little did she know, she had just declared war on the man who draws the maps. You see, I'm not just a farmer. I'm the elected county commissioner, the guy who signed off on the zoning permits, land deeds, and the Agricultural Reserve Act Marlene just trampled over. And in less than 30 minutes, she was going to learn exactly who she messed with. I grabbed the original deeds, zoning maps, and reserve protection clauses from my office. Then I called the sheriff directly, told him I had 15 bulldozers and an HOA president pretending to be a government official. By the time I stepped back onto the porch, Marlene had wrapped yellow tape across my front gate. A man with a megaphone rehearsed fake evacuation orders. Marlene shouted about converting the land into a dog park, a yoga retreat, and a community garden. She even claimed to have sold rental permits to 3 yoga instructors. I asked her to move the bulldozers. She told me if I didn't want to be flattened, I should start packing my crops. My neighbor Hank, a retired Navy vet, walked over, leaned in, and whispered, "She doesn't know who you are, does she?" I shook my head. Then came the sound of Justicia Sheriff's helicopter thundering above. Marlene actually smiled. "They're here to help us begin the conversion," she said proudly. But when 3 sheriff SUVs rolled up and a deputy calmly asked Marlene about the bulldozers, it all fell apart. She handed over her laminated permit. The deputy stared at it for 3 seconds and said, "Ma'am, this is a printout from a neighborhood blog." One of the bulldozer operators asked, "So, do we still get paid or what?" Marlene snarled at him to stay in formation. "You called the sheriff?" She hissed. "No," I replied. "You did when you brought 15 bulldozers onto protected farmland." The deputy raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, he's the county commissioner." You could hear a pin drop. That's when my wife, Claire, walked down from the farmhouse. She wore jeans and a flannel, clipboard under her arm. Claire's not just my wife, she's also a county judge. She handed me the clipboard. "Injunction signed. Want to serve it to her sister, or should I?" Before I could answer, a silver SUV pulled up and out stepped Linda, Remington Marlene's sister, and, apparently, the new acting HOA president. Linda told the bulldozer crew to resume operations. Claire stepped forward. "Linda, you're about to violate a judicial injunction." Linda raised a lip. "And who are you?" "County judge," Claire replied coolly. "Remove the machinery or face criminal charges." Linda read the paper, went pale, and marched back to her SUV. We weren't done. That afternoon, I called the zoning board and the agriculture office. I had proof Karen fake maps, forged boundary markers, and deployed heavy machinery on a protected zone. I sent them everything. Then a journalist reached out, curious about the angry farmer blocking progress. I invited her over, showed her land records, legal documents, and trail cam footage of Marlene replacing legal boundary markers with fake ones. Her jaw dropped. 3 days later, Marlene returned. This time, with a lawyer in a cheap suit and a camera crew. She marched right up to the line, screaming about land monopolies, secret government plots, and fake boundaries. She waved papers in the air like they were holy scripture. I handed her lawyer a folder. His expression changed by page 2. He whispered, "This might be a problem." "What kind of problem?" Marlene snapped. "The kind that proves everything you did was illegal," I said, calmly pulling out time-stamped footage, zoning maps, and signed permit records. Local reporters had arrived by then, filming everything. I told them. She tried to steamroll law with machinery, but all the loud engines in the world don't change the facts. Then I dropped the bomb. I revealed that not only did I own the farm, but my family also owned 60% of the land beneath the HOA's roads, utility lines, and irrigation systems. Their infrastructure sat on our property under expiring easement agreements. And after this, I'm not renewing. Karen screamed about blackmail. A deputy stepped between us. Her lawyer handed me his card and said quietly, "If she fires me, give me a call. I'd rather work for you." She filed a lawsuit against the county. It was so riddled with nonsense that the judge laughed. The case was dismissed with prejudice. Charges were filed against her instead: trespassing, fraud, environmental damage. We dissolved the HOA's infrastructure agreements. They either had to pay us or shut down. They chose to disband, and I auctioned off the bulldozers left rotting on my land. The event turned into a fair. Kids climbed on bulldozers. One got turned into a play structure at the local museum. Claire ran free zoning classes. Hank gave a lecture on spotting fake leaders. Weeks later, I got a letter from Marlene. No apology, just an acknowledgement that she never really understood the laws she tried to enforce. I pinned it up next to a photo of the 15 bulldozers lined up like ducks. Below it, a handmade sign reads, "Never start a war with the man who draws the map." Because in the end, this fight wasn't about tractors or yoga parks. It was about what happens when loud entitlement crashes into quiet authority. And just like the land we fought over, the truth doesn't move for bulldozers.